Hello there and welcome to my review of the Genesis C5 with the BH40 ball head. This tripod is very interesting since it offers a lot to a very affordable price. And I've been receiving quite a few questions actually on what my thoughts are of this tripod. So I thought let's make a video of it, and I'm gonna summarize my experience with this particular tripod over the past 3 years that I've been using it. I just remembered that I forgot to mention two things in the review, so I'm just gonna mention them here really quickly, and that is number one, I'm reviewing this for landscape photography since that is exclusively the way that I use the tripod. It is for landscape photography, and that is what the review is for, landscape photographers. The second thing is that, as I said, I've been using the tripod for the past 3 years, and if you want to see me using the tripod in field, well, all you have to do is check out one of my videos from the past 3 years and you can see me using that particular tripod. And usually I don't really talk about the tripod in my videos, but I don't think you ever hear me complain about the tripod either, which says something now, doesn't it? So, let's get started. Do you get what you pay for with this tripod? Well, yeah, and some more. And let me explain why. This tripod has, well, for the amount of money that you pay for this tripod, you get an amazing amount of tripod for that money. And by that I mean you get a big tripod. I mean it is pretty big. It reaches high up, as you can see. This leg is fully extended. I am 180 centimeters high, tall, and as you can see, it I have a bit of a extension here though, but you can see it is almost as high as I am. So I think it's around 170 centimeters, and with the legs out, perhaps 165 or something like that. And that is without the center column, which I don't use. I don't like it since it limits my ability to go low. Yes, you get a lot of tripod, so it's a big tripod which gives you versatility, especially when working in slopes, but also in compositional freedom. If you want to frame something which has an eye level which is pretty high or pretty low, in either case you can work with it. The legs fold out almost completely straight, so you can get really low. If that's something that you find that you'll need, you can do it with this tripod. And also it is carbon fiber, which has the added benefit of being able to absorb a little bit more vibrations and things like that would be shaking through the tripod. Yes, so a lot of tripod for the money. And that's all fine and well, but what if it isn't stable? So, is it stable? I'd say that it is stable enough. In most situations, you're going to get stable or you're going to get sharp images out of this tripod. I photographed in multiple different situations, and in most of those I've had no issue whatsoever, even when photographing long exposures of up to 8 or 16 minutes in windy conditions and still having a perfectly sharp image. And usually what I do in those windy conditions is that I'm spreading the legs out just so that I increase the grounding area of the tripod, which, well, two things. It means that the tripod won't blow over as easily, but also it helps to plant it down so that it gets more stable. And by doing that, I've been able to, as I said, photograph up to 16 minutes long exposure in really windy conditions. Not storm-like weather, but wind. So perhaps 10 to 15 meters per second wind gusts, and it's still been fine. And so yeah, it has a nice size. It is stable, and it isn't too big, which could be a issue also. So it packs down pretty small. As you can see, these legs are pretty small. Also, it can fold up and around if you like to fold up your tripods. I don't. But it gets pretty small, and it doesn't weigh all that much. It has a pretty nimble weight, I'd say, for the size. It's completely acceptable. I think it's around perhaps 2 kilograms for the tripod, and another 500 grams for the head. And I find that to be completely acceptable. And actually, well, it's a nice compromise in weight. It is easily the heaviest gear that I'm carrying, but the versatility that I get by having the height and everything, I think that is really outweighing the negative part of having a heavy tripod. It isn't too bothersome to carry around, even though I often hike for hours at a time. Yeah, the only thing is to have a good backpack so that you can distribute the weight well on your shoulders and everything. Which leads us into the durability part. And well, as I've said from multiple times already, I've been using it for 3 years, and so far, well, I haven't really had any problems. Not really any problems with it in terms of durability. The only thing, one time I managed to unscrew one of these twist locks in the mountains, and well, I couldn't get it back on. But that was my fault. It was not the fault of the tripod. It was just me being tired early in the morning. Well, I'd rate the durability as good enough as well, since I haven't had any issues with it. Let's just mention that I haven't had it in salt water, so I have no idea how it's going to stand up to that. I can mention that if you put it in water and it goes beyond the twist lock, you can get water into the tripod itself, but it usually drains out pretty easily by just turning it upside down. Well, I have gotten water into the legs at least, but I haven't had any issues with it draining out again, so wouldn't really consider that an issue. And the only thing that I'm really doing with the tripod as a maintenance thing is to retighten these screws here. They do come undone, but that is the case with every tripod ever, I think. So yeah, durability is certainly good enough. Yeah, and that kind of concludes the positive part of the video. So let's jump into the negatives, and the first negative that I want to talk about is stability. And yes, I mentioned that in the positive as well, but there are few times where I do find it to be not stable enough, and those are when using really long lenses in windy conditions. Then I do find that I get quite a bit of camera shake, or that I see a lot of shake happening, and I'm not really sure where in the tripod exactly it comes from, but I have noticed it, and that's on like 200 millimeters plus when it's windy. Yeah, I just want to mention that and let you know that if you're really keen on using long lenses in windy conditions, then I'd probably get something more expensive if you can afford it. But as I mentioned, folding the legs out so that you get a bigger footprint does help. And also might be actually that these, I should have mentioned that as a positive as well, that these rubber feet, you can take them off, they just pop off and you get these spikes instead. I've always kept these on, but it might be that these feet cause a little bit of vibrations in extremely windy conditions with the longer lens, because they are not like completely screwed on, and well, they have a little bit of flex to them. But I'm not sure, it might be that removing these and just using these spikes in extremely windy conditions might help, but I haven't really done that actually ever. But it's a nice part to have the spikes integrated as in that way, I suppose. Another negative part is that there's no hook when you remove, a hook to hang like your bag or sandbag or something to weigh it down. It has no hook when you remove the big center column, and there's no way to adapt that hook into this short center column. That I find it as a negative thing, and something that they should fix if they do a version 2 of this tripod. Another thing I should mention is that in the beginning, like the first year or so, the twist locks were quite stiff, especially during winters and when it was really cold. I had a hard time, but it was a lot harder to actually use the twist locks. But now that I've used the tripod for a longer period of time, it seems to have gotten smoother with the age. So it has in that sense aged pretty well. But just so that you know, that the twist locks can be quite stiff to begin with, but they will get better with time. So if you want to make them smoother, just sit and screw them up and screw them on all the time. So yeah, that leads us into the verdict, my final thoughts on it. And I think it's important when discussing gear, one important factor is what it actually brings to you. And for me, this tripod is good enough for everything that I'm really doing. And with good enough, it means that there are certainly better alternatives on the market, but they cost more. And even more important than that is, do I feel a need or a want to replace this tripod with anything else? And the truth is, no, I don't. I find it to be good enough for my purposes, and well, my feelings agree with me on that, in that I don't look at other tripods and feel a want or a need to replace this one with a new one. I don't have any tripods on my wish list for gear to buy or gear to get. I'm just overall really satisfied with using this tripod, and it's grown on me really a lot. And learning to work with the tripod and everything has just made me really come to like it and love it. I think it's a good, one way to put it is that it's a good compromise between size, weight and price and materials, since it's carbon fiber. It's also a complete package, so don't forget that you're getting the tripod head, which I haven't really talked about. I suppose I should do that. Let me just jump in here a little bit closer, I suppose. Yeah, the tripod head. For me, I might actually consider changing it to something lighter, but it isn't all that heavy. The tripod head works well as well. Let me just show you here that you have a tension screw on the tension screw. So you have a limiter in a sense on here. Ooh, I really enjoy this design, since it means that I can put the tension or the limiter where I want it, and when I screw off, when I loosen the tension screw here, I'm not loosening it enough that it becomes completely free. And that is really nice, because that means that you won't unscrew it and the tripod on the camera just kind of falls down. So that's really nice. I really like that design, instead of having another screw on the ball head itself where you limit the tension there. Also, it has the panning feature, which is perhaps my least favorite part of the head, since when you just unscrew it a little bit and you move it, you can really feel it, the resistance, like the gearing or whatever it is in there. You can feel it kind of grinding, so you really have to loosen it all the way, and then it becomes actually really fluid and nice. And you can have it unscrewed and it still remains enough tension when like photographing panoramas and things like that, so that it won't flow freely and change composition when you release the camera. So, well, overall, I think the ball head is fitting to the tripod. It fits nice, it works nice, and I've actually abused the tripod head, the ball head, a little bit more than the tripod itself, since I'm often carrying the tripod and everything upside down on my backpack, like this. And then when I'm putting the backpack down, I'm basically just dropping it down on the head quite often, which you can see. You can see it here that it kind of, a lot of the paint has been scraped off and everything, but still it works fine. I have no problem with the head, just as I have no problem with the tripod itself. So yeah, I'm not sure if I've forgotten anything or how long this review is. I'm hoping that it's short, but I'm not that efficient of a talker, so probably isn't. But yeah, if you've liked this review, leave a like on the video. If you have any questions, or write them below. If there's anything that I forgot to mention, make sure to ask that question below and I'll make sure to answer it. I'll probably put a pinned comment below with any additions that I can think of, and as an answer to like a Q&A style answer, if you have any answer or questions in the comments. So I make that like a reference comment for questions and answers about the tripod. Yeah, but I think that is everything. Like, subscribe, comment and share this video if you enjoyed it, if you gotten something out of it, and I'll see you all soon again. Until next time, goodbye.